Okay. Whoa! We're back with another episode of the Luke and Noah talking about Apple stuff and other stuff time show.
I think we should rename the show to that. It really
I
gets at
agree.
the core of it, you know?
I think it really says everything that we say. Like we could just say that and then call it that's the show.
I feel like dark mode, it's like a cool name, but like it could be anything, you know? Like you don't know what it is.
Exactly. I think that's a great idea.
Uh, yeah. It's okay, wait, I'm sorry. Hang on.
Noah's had a bit of a tiring day.
Okay, I'm here. I'm always tired. I'm always tired before the podcast, but when we start, then I'm I'm here. All right, we're good. We're good.
Dude, yeah, there's a lot to talk about today. We've got to talk about, and I promise today we're not going to spend the entire time talking about Vision Pro. We're
Good,
not going to
because
do
I feel
that.
like you're gonna lambast me.
Yeah, I am going to lambast you. There will be Vision Pro lambastery at the beginning, but we're going to talk about other stuff also.
Yes, good. Keep it brief.
Yes, exactly. I think that's a good idea. Also, someone in the chat just pointed out something that is very has really touched on a chord here, which is that the
Mm.
Vision Pro 24-hour video that you helped me work on because we were hanging out that day and you kind of
Mhm.
babysat me and drove me around.
Yeah.
Dude, that video is not hitting on the YouTube algorithm. Not hitting at all.
Really?
I don't even it is currently at 45,000 views.
Hmm.
But people really like it. The comments have been really positive. The likes have been positive. I think it's one of the best videos I've ever made. I thought it was a ton of fun. Not to mention, took me a long time, 24 hours inside of the dang thing. But then so many people did 24 hours in Vision Pro and they got insane views. So I'm not usually salty at the algorithm, but I'm a little salty over that one, not gonna lie.
No, I thought it was a good video. I thought it was a lot of fun. And I will say for the record, and I'll say this again when we're recording if you want, but you actually did spend that time in Vision Pro. It wasn't like, "Oh, I'm going to spend 24 hours," and you like,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, "Oh, let me film some stuff. Oh, take it off, whatever." I was with you for the full 24 hours and you had that thing on for 24 hours. I just want to give you some credit there.
Yeah, I did not. Some people cheated, I guarantee, but
Mhm.
I did not cheat.
No, sir. Not that I saw.
I don't know, man. It was a little bit of a bummer. I'll tell you what has surprised me.
Hmm.
So, do you remember the fake Apple Vision Pro?
Yes, of course.
So, that video got over 350,000 views. And
Wow.
I don't know if you remember, but when we posted that, it was a total failure. That video completely 180'd.
Yeah, see, I saw you tweeted about that and I was like really surprised by that. I don't remember how well it did, but like, yeah, I guess it didn't do well at first and then it got a huge bump from the algorithm or whatever.
Yeah, it literally I think it's still going right now. I don't know what happened, but that video got totally discovered
That's like
and it's just going.
it's really interesting because I feel like that I don't know. I'm trying to think like is that more interesting before or after the actual Vision Pro comes out? I was thinking like when the actual Vision Pro is out, people want to know about the actual Vision Pro, but maybe I don't know. Maybe they're like, oh, I've seen enough about the Vision Pro. Let me look at this, this dumb fake one, and now that I know what the real one's like, how does it compare to this fake one? So I could see it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it definitely makes sense, but it's just very interesting. I mean, I didn't change anything about the video, by the way. Like, I think purely that video got rediscovered just because now the Vision Pro is actually out. People were like, huh, now I'm interested in this topic. I think that my mindset was upload it beforehand because once Vision Pro comes out, people aren't going to be that like, I don't know. I just thought that people wouldn't be that interested in a fake one when they've got a real one to talk
Yeah.
about.
Yeah,
But as
exactly.
it turns out, opposite. And now that the real one's out, people are like, huh, there's a fake one? That's got to be funny. And
That's
sure
true.
enough, I mean, it's still going. I can show you the actually, yeah, let me pull it up on here. I'll show you the graph because it literally is like exactly when Vision Pro. Actually, it was like a couple days after. It was almost as though people watched all the Vision Pro stuff and then
Mm.
wanted something else to watch. Oh my god. It's still going. It's at 430,000 now.
Whoa.
It's gaining like 100,000 views a day.
That's crazy. That's
That's
awesome.
actually insane. Yeah, let me show you this view graph. It's so funny. So in the first day, first 24 hours, it did 26,000 views. That was very, very low for my channel, as you can see. Normally it's 41 to 85. So like
Hmm.
that was like pretty disappointing. First 5 days, six, seven, in the first week, it got to like 50K. I remember on January 1st when it started to get up to like, okay, now it's at to like 60, 70. Then I was like, okay, at least it wasn't a complete failure, but like still not good.
Yeah.
But then if we go over here to February, okay, so there's Vision Pro launch day, February 2nd. So it's been gaining like pretty consistent views that whole time, surprisingly.
Hmm.
But it was literally, wow, it was like this past week, in the past 7 days. That's when you can really see like as Vision Pro is coming out, it starts to tick up a little bit. And then on Valentine's Day is when it just went, okay, now we're gonna just go bananas. That's so interesting.
Yeah, like I guess it was below the target and then it just worked
Hmm.
its way up to the top and then it just like shot all the way up.
Yeah. And you know what? Maybe that'll happen too with the 24-hour video. So that's why it's a good lesson to, if you do YouTube or TikTok, same thing can happen on TikTok. Don't give up right away. Someone here said, A/B testing thumbnails. That's a great idea. I didn't change anything about the fake Vision Pro video. It just magically happened. Sometimes that just happens 60 days after it's uploaded.
Yeah, now I kind of want to rewatch that video because I feel like when we made that, I hadn't even used like the Vision OS simulator, or maybe it was called the XROS simulator at the time. But like
Yeah.
I never even used that. So that was my first experience of anything adjacent to Vision Pro. Because then I noticed like when I got the actual Vision Pro, and I remember like the control center on the actual Vision Pro looked like the one in the fake Vision Pro kind of. And
Yeah.
I was like, wait, how is that? Oh yeah, they were looking based it off the simulator. But like now that I've used the actual Vision Pro, I want to go and look at that fake one again and see, see how it compare. Obviously it's terrible, but like I want to see how it
Yeah, I
compares.
mean, they copied a lot of the UI. Like the Photos app in the fake one looks pretty much identical. They had
Mm-hmm.
like the same app thing that floats in front of you. But I mean, obviously, the pass through was awful. The like, oh, dude, the thing's hilarious, completely hilarious. But yeah, that was a fun video to make, and it definitely was like a palate cleanser for like, okay, the real one. Think about how good the real one's gonna be after this. and it was. But we
Yeah.
can start because we gotta talk about what you've done.
Oh no. All right.
All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
Welcome to Dark Mode, the podcast that brings you sage advice from two technology experts. And that's not just what we call ourselves, it's what our moms tell people when their sons disappoint them and return Apple Vision Pro. I'm your disgraced host, Luke Miani.
I mean, this is such a
Yeah.
sad way to start this. I don't feel disgraced. I'm your normal, reasonable host,
No.
Noah Rubin.
Mm.
Okay. On this show, we take questions from listeners, attempt to answer them to varying degrees of success. Maybe we have a laugh or two along the way. Maybe we return a
today.
product or two along the way, and that's
Mm-mm.
okay. There's a return policy, and sometimes things happen.
No laughs or two along the way today. The mood is somber because of what you did. Tell them.
You make it sound like I
Explain.
killed someone.
You did. My joy. That's what you killed. Explain yourself.
Fine. Okay. Yesterday, I took my Vision Pro back to the Apple store and I returned it. I am now Vision Pro-less. It's true.
You have no vision.
You're right.
You saw the
right.
vision and you denied it.
I was shown the light and I went back into the darkness.
Mm-hmm. Unbelievable. So explain yourself. Why'd you do that?
Well, it's funny because when I took the Vision Pro into the Apple store to return it, there were like 3 or 4 employees that were all asking me. They were like, "Oh, why are you like, oh, you're returning it? Wow, like why? Whatever." It's like a whole thing. So, and they were all very nice, but anyways, the reasons why am I returning it? A few things, and I think that these are things. So, if you've seen the news articles recently about people returning their Vision Pros, I think my reasons were very similar to other people's reasons. I think part of it was the discomfort. It is a very heavy thing on your head. I will say, using the thicker light seal cushion in the box and the dual loop band, both of those did help make it a lot more manageable. Yep, there it is. The W plus or whatever it's called. Definitely both helped to make it more manageable. But at the end of the day, it was still a bit too uncomfortable for me. That was one thing. The other thing was not a ton of stuff to do on it, stuff that I see myself doing on it. I think obviously the watching videos experience is the thing that it does best right now. And that is definitely a valuable thing to have, especially if you're on an airplane or, you're somewhere where you don't have a big TV or whatever. It's very valuable. But other than that, there's not a ton. I played around with, the games in Apple Arcade and some of the other experiences and the apps that were on it. And they're all very cool. But I felt like they were a bit gimmicky or a bit like, I could just play the same thing on my phone and get most of the experience out of it. And then the last thing I'll say, and then I'll let you get I know you have a lot to say. I'll let you get it in there. But the last thing is that the software experience is very impressive, but it is not perfect. Not that I would expect it to be, but it fails often enough and annoyingly enough that it was just too much for me. The main thing for me was whenever you do a pinch gesture, whether it's to move around a window or scroll or whatever, very often I would do the pinch gesture and open my fingers, but maybe I don't open them far enough. And the thing thinks that I'm still pinching. And so it'll scroll further, it'll move the video further, or it'll move the window somewhere. And whatever it is, like it happens fairly often. And it was kind of annoying to me. All of those things compounded with the price tag. It was over $3,000. I got a discount with the Apple employee discount, but it was over $3,000. All of that combined, it just wasn't quite there for me yet for this first generation.
Interesting. That is very interesting. Okay. I have many thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Here's I get it. I get it. I
Okay.
absolutely understand where you're coming from. And I don't blame you at all.
Wow.
And I think you
Okay.
probably made the right call, to be perfectly honest. But the difference that you and I have is that I am not keeping Vision Pro for what it is right now. I am keeping Vision Pro because every couple of weeks, months, whatever it may be over the lifespan of this product before Vision Pro 2, there's, hey, look, this new app just came out. Oh, I can try it out. There's uh like for example, just recently, I think a couple days ago, somebody got Steam VR working on Vision Pro.
Mm-hmm.
And that I have not set it up yet. I hear it's fairly involved and like almost a little jailbreaky, but you can
Uh-huh.
get Steam VR on Vision Pro. So the fact that we already have people that are like working on expanding its horizons, that's what kept me in it. I like to watch the videos. I like to, just browse around sometimes and put it on and just, you know, I'll put it on when I'm cleaning, put it on when I'm cooking. Like it's nice to be able to just have stuff floating around and not have to hold. But the biggest thing for me is just, let's say mid-April, cool thing comes out, I can just try it. That's not financially smart probably, but that's what I bought into and I just want to be there for it.
No, I completely get that. And I feel like, obviously as like a Apple YouTuber, tech YouTuber, whatever, like it makes a lot of sense for you to have one. And I completely agree. Like literally, right before I returned it, I bought Black Box, the puzzle game, and it's like a $20 game, which is like a lot
Mhm.
for not iOS, Vision OS, whatever. Everything on the Vision OS App Store is kind of expensive right now because there's not a lot of stuff on there. But
And
whatever.
because the developers making it know that they're only going to sell like 10,000 copies tops, so you got to make them
That's
count.
true. That's a good point. But I bought that because I was like, I want to try this out, and if I'm returning the Vision Pro, I'm not going to be able to try it out for a very long time. So I bought it and I tried it out for a little bit, and it's cool. I got stuck after 8 puzzles or whatever, but it's a cool game. You should try it out. But anyways, like I completely agree. Like there's gonna be, at WWDC, there's probably gonna be software update, hopefully Vision OS 2, and I think there will be a lot of improvements in Vision OS 2, and I will come visit you so that I can experience it for myself. But I will
See, that's the
definitely.
thing. You got to get on a plane to come try it. I just go, boop, here
I
it is.
know. I
Whee!
know. I know. But okay, here's the thing. Here's the thing. And this was what I told all the Apple employees when they were asking me. They were like, why, oh, you're returning this, whatever. And I told them the whole thing I just told you. And I said, look, this thing is awesome. I
Mhm.
I think it's really, really cool. The hand gestures and the eye tracking are really cool. Not 100%. I already said the hand gestures weren't great. The eye tracking is usually pretty good. Sometimes it's not super great, especially if I'm like lying down. I feel like it's like I have to like put my head up off of the pillow in order to
You're
get the eye
right.
tracking to work.
Mhm.
Yeah. So there's
I
things
don't know
like
what
that.
that's about.
I don't whatever. Maybe you're at an angle or it's like lying on a weird way on your head or whatever it is. But there were all this, but I'm like, regardless of that, it's not 100% perfect, but it works really well most of the time. And it's super impressive. And like, there's so many things about it that are super impressive. And so I said, I'm really, really excited for the next one, or maybe the one after that, or whatever it is. Okay, look, when the next one comes out, when the Vision Pro 2 comes out, I'll buy one. And I'm not guaranteeing that I'm going to keep that one either, but like, I want, like, what I'm saying is I didn't return this because I'm like, oh, I don't want, an AR experience. I don't want a headset or whatever. It's because I want to be able to get into the next one without having to worry about like, oh, I have this one already, whatever. It's like, I'm really excited for the next one or the one after that or whatever. And I'm absolutely going to come back in, as soon as it gets a little bit better, than it is today.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Okay, here's the thing. I also have another concern about, like you mentioned, wanting a second generation, okay? And this is what I'm worried about. We might be waiting a while. Let's be honest. It seems like, now I personally don't know if I believe this, and I'm going to try to find the article here. Apparently the timeline for Vision Pro 2 is not looking too great. So Ming-Chi Kuo, and now granted, this is an older article here from September. I can put it up on screen.
Okay.
Dude, if this is true, I will be a very sad boy. All right.
Okay.
Ming-Chi Kuo predicts a dim future for Apple Vision Pro, and he is saying that shipments will be limited by a few key suppliers to half what's been predicted, and an update won't arrive until 2027.
Whoa.
So he's expecting Vision Pro shipments this year to be 400,000 to 600,000 units, which, by the way, is quite a lot. Even though the expectation is 1 million, I don't know, man. 1 million $3,500 headsets, that sounds a bit high. 400 to 600K probably sounds right. However, he also says that Apple may have canceled a low-cost Apple Vision headset that would come out next year. And he said that Vision Pro 2 might not come until the first half of 2027.
I feel like that. Okay. There's a lot for the current Vision Pro we have. There's a lot of improvements that can come from the software, both the operating system, Vision OS, and additional apps and features and stuff. But I don't think that this one in 3 years from now is gonna be at the right level. Like right now, this is the best headset that's on the market. Depending on what you want to do, whatever. If you want to play games, get a Quest or whatever. But like overall, in terms of like the features and whatever, this is like a very, very impressive headset. In 3 years, that's going to be pretty rough. And especially if Apple is trying to make this like one of their core products and like the next generation, like the next big thing that they're doing. If they wait 3 years, I feel like they're not going to be able to build momentum on. It's like, imagine the first iPhone, right? The first iPhone to the iPhone 4. The iPhone 4 was like huge, totally like whatever, right? The original iPhone, 3G, 3GS were good upgrades, but then the 4 was like a huge turning point. Imagine if there were, 2, 3, 4 years in between each of those iPhones, and it took that long to get to the iPhone 4. Like, I feel like it would kill a lot of the momentum that Apple kind of needs for this new like category.
Oh yeah, I agree 100% with everything that you're saying. It's tough to say that Apple could maintain the best headset, especially for the price. Like $3,500 right now, cutting edge with the features that it has, is already, I would argue, more money than it's worth. Now, I personally think that there's a very good chance Apple is not making nearly any money on these things. Like if you're talking about hardware, cost to manufacture, not even factoring in R&D, which I'm sure is in the billions, I would be so shocked if Apple is making more than $200-300 a unit on these things. just with how advanced this technology is and how new it is. But give it 2 years, this is not going to be a good value. I'm sure the margins will go up because I think this is something that not a lot of people know, but it's not a constant thing. Like the reason that Apple is able to sell their old phones at a cheaper price, it's not like, okay, let me get a good example of this. Okay, Apple sells the iPhone 12 still, I believe, 13. Sorry. So the iPhone 13 you can still buy from Apple right now, but I would guarantee that the $600 that you pay right now for an iPhone 13 is giving Apple just as much profit, probably more than when it was new at $800, because producing something at scale lowers the cost of its production. So what Vision Pro is doing is, one, making the headset, like launching the product, but it's also the largest scale deployment of micro OLED screens like this, right? This is 50 times more pixel dense than an iPhone screen. Those screens are outrageously expensive. But I'll guarantee you this: when a factory makes 600,000 of them for Apple Vision Pro, which might not be a ton compared to the iPhone, but that is literally the only of those screens that exist at that scale. So Apple is in some ways breaking the ice with a lot of these technologies, like the cameras that are high resolution, the amount of software and data and user information that they can now get for the eye tracking and pupil tracking and the gesture issues that we talked about, and for making lenses, making speakers that fit into headbands. All of this stuff is new and is now being tested and refined. And that's a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing because it means in a couple of years, when micro OLED screens start to make their way to a bunch of other headsets, that will probably be at least partially thanks to Apple biting the bullet and breaking the ice on using them. But it's also bad news because we're going to probably be stuck with this for a while. This isn't an iterative thing right now. This is a massive, massive project that has taken years to get to. And that means it's going to take years to find out what's next.
It's definitely a fair point. I think, obviously, like you said, as this thing is produced for longer and, the parts, the very fancy parts right now become more and more commonplace, among other things. And as the production lines are set up and they run and they're, fully running at scale, whatever, like I could foresee the price of this Vision Pro, the one that we have today, coming down potentially. So maybe, if let's say it takes 3 years or 2 years or whatever for the second generation to come out, theoretically, I'm not saying this would happen, but theoretically, Apple could probably bring the price of the current Vision Pro down before that, right? Like it starts at $3,500 right now. Theoretically, and I'm not saying this is a good marketing or business decision, but like theoretically, they could bring that price down. They could probably get it down to, I don't know, $3,000 or that's just a number, but like they could bring it down. But
that's a good point.
Yeah, I think the sort of the problem that they have is like, one, there's the technological problem of like, what are they putting in this thing next? There's some obvious like, oh, stick an M3 in there. That's pretty obvious, but also I feel like performance hasn't really been an issue on the Vision Pro, at least in my experience. So I don't know, but I think the main thing is like all these people that are spending $3,500 plus on a Vision Pro right now, and then in a year or 2 years, if they're going to launch the second generation, like that's kind of what they need to get the momentum going. But for all those existing people, are you going to get them to buy another head, even if it costs $3,000 at that point and it's better? Are they going to spend another 3,000 if they just spent 3,500 on the first one and it's just a year or two old? And like, how's that going to make them feel about, the first one that they bought? Whatever. It's like when the price is this high, it becomes a bit more of a problem than just like the iPhone.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that there's definitely been many meetings about this over at Apple Land. Like, do we update it quickly and make it better really fast, or do we like let it sit, because if we update it too fast, then the people who we want to buy it will have just bought Vision Pro 1 and won't want to buy another one right away. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of different angles going on here. I personally, though, I think it's a good point about the price decrease. I think if they were to wait like a year and do a price drop, that would be a good idea. Um, Also, I think a Vision Pro, or a Vision Not Pro. What do we think about that?
I think that would be like, I think that would be a smart idea. Whatever. Obviously, we're not experts. We're just, we're two technology experts or whatever.
We are two of those, yes.
But aside from that, I think the thing that, like, because the thing that we're both agreeing on is like Apple needs to iterate on this product in order to get it to a better state where more people can buy it, and that means getting the price down and also getting the features, having a bit more features and a bit more useful for average people to use. And I think, and we're both saying like they can wait for a while with the current Vision Pro and then do the second one. If they do another one too soon, it'll alienate the people that bought the first one, whatever. But if they release a regular Vision, a not Pro, and obviously they'll remove a bunch of features, it probably won't have eyesight. It'll probably be lighter as a result of that because it won't have like the glass and whatever on the front. And whatever other compromises, they'll make with it. Maybe it won't have all the stuff in the box. It won't have two bands in the box or whatever they're going to do, cheaper materials to build it out of, maybe even plastic. I feel like that wouldn't really alienate the people that bought the current one, because even though there's a cheaper option, they still have the better one, but it would allow them to iterate, which they need to do, and it would potentially bring in some more people, because I think there are people out there. There are some people that are like, no, there's no way I'm buying this thing until it's like, as cheap, it's like super cheap and whatever. There are some people that bought the Vision Pro, and there are some people in the middle that are like, oh, if it's 2,500, 2,000, 1,500, whatever, then I would buy one. And I feel like there is some amount, like some market segment that they could capture, with a non-pro version.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I very much hope that is going to be the case. We'll find out. I also think that Ming-Chi Kuo's timeline is a bit pessimistic. Mark Gurman more recently did say that Vision Pro 2 is at least 18 months away. To me, that sounds about right. Okay. What I'm thinking is, let me know what you think about this. Ignoring a potential like cheaper Apple Vision, which I have heard is a real thing. Like, not, this isn't a leak, but somebody has told me that it's a real thing, if you know what I mean. So it's not like a imaginary concept. I know Ming-Chi Kuo says it was canceled. I'm not sure about that. I don't have that detailed information, but I have been told that it exists, flat out. So that's, just keep that in mind. But to me, what makes sense when I see this at least 18 months away thing from Mark Gurman, what that makes me think is, what about WWDC 2025? Because keep in mind, this is a February 2nd launch. Now, 18 months from now would be like July 2025. So perhaps they could do uh, a WWDC 2025. This is Vision Pro parentheses second generation, which I think someone in chat said that they'll call it. Honestly, I believe that.
Yeah.
Um, so Vision Pro parentheses second generation, and then it launches maybe in the fall of 2025. I really feel like 2025. I just don't see 2 or 3 years passing without changing this product. That seems a little bit much, even though I know, even if Apple did that, right, a year and a half product cycle, people would say, that's crazy. They want me to buy another one already. I just bought it. Like, it's going to be tough either way, but I would rather that they bombard us with Vision Pro updates than let it stagnate and fall behind.
No, I completely agree. And I was just looking, I was just doing a little bit of research, I guess, really quick. The original iPhone and its successor, the 3G, were about 1 year apart. And the 3G was not a huge upgrade. It added 3G support and what else? It says it has GPS. It had 3G data support and whatever. And it wasn't like a huge thing, but it was the next version. I think people that had the existing iPhone at the time were probably okay with the one that they had, but the new one definitely had some improvements. And then the 3GS came 1 year after that. And I remember that one had the video recording. That was like one of the big things, was you could finally record video on an iPhone, which is kind of funny that it
2
took them to the third
generations for
one.
that.
But anyways, the point, and then after that was the iPhone 4, right? And the iPhone 4 came out 1 year later than that, and that was huge, right? Complete redesign. They went from plastic to glass, and what is it, titanium rail or whatever,
stainless steel, I think.
Stainless steel rail, complete redesign. It whatever, it was a big thing. Retina display, whatever, it was a huge thing. But this was a year after year after year. And so I don't think that the Vision Pro necessarily has to be year after year. I think like what you said, the 18 months would be dub of next year. I think that makes a lot of sense. But I agree that like the Vision Pro 2 is not going to be, it's not going to be a huge change. It's not going to be the glasses that we're waiting for, whatever. It's going to be the same thing right now, right? But it's going to have an M3 chip or an M4 chip, whatever it is. It'll be faster. Maybe the pass through will be a bit less grainy and like whatever. And people that have the current Vision Pro will be fine because they've had it for a year and a half or 2 years, and it still works, and it'll get software updates. But I agree, they have to do something sooner, and it's not going to be a huge thing, but they have to do something sooner, and I think that they will.
I really hope so. But I mainly just think that the main reason I didn't return this is because I think software is going to go a long way. I know that your reason for returning it mainly was comfort, and I definitely, that's not something that's going to change. So I'm just going to suffer through it. It's uncomfortable after a while, and I'm just gonna have to live with that and figure out how to integrate it without it being too much of an issue. However, I do worry that Apple might end up in a bit of an iPad situation mainly because of the expense of this thing. And I don't think it's going to be a first gen problem, but like once you start really adding stuff to this thing, making it lighter, making the cameras better quality, adding more software features, at this price point, it's going to be hard to persuade people to upgrade it very regularly. The first 2-3 generations, that's easy because all of us are sitting here like, we want more, we want more, we want more. Look at the iPad launch. When the iPad came out in 2010, within 3 years of that, we had the iPad Air. Insanely better iPad. and people would buy it every step of the way. The iPad mini. I knew people that had an iPad. I remember very specifically going to the beach with my family in 2013. Okay. In 2013, that's 3 years into the iPad. Actually, wait, it must have been 2014 because the iPad Air would have been out then. Okay, so the iPad had only existed for 4 years, and my family went to the beach, and my dad had just got the iPad 3 to replace his iPad 1. My aunt had just got the iPad Air to replace her iPad 2. The iPad 2 had been passed down to a cousin, and the iPad 1 that she had at launch was passed to my grandfather so that he could tap away on it. And I think I had an iPad mini. My cousin had an iPad 4th gen with the Lightning. Like, dude, there were so many iPads, and people were like upgrading this so often. But you don't see that now. 4 years ago, the iPad Pro with the A12Z came out. That was 4 years ago. That's crazy. In the last 4 years, nothing substantial has changed. I know my dad, who at that point in time, he bought the original iPad, the iPad 3, the iPad Pro, the original iPad Pro, 2018 iPad Pro. My dad has not modified his iPad in the past 3 years.
It was 5 years since the 2018 iPad Pro.
Well, he bought it refurbished, but it's
Okay.
been he bought it like, yeah, I guess about 3 years ago.
Okay.
And he is no longer like, oh, when's the new iPad coming out? What's happening next? Like, that is something that Apple needs to work on. Might that happen to Vision Pro? I don't know, but this is a good segue to talk about the iPad rumors, because I don't know if you've heard, Noah, but I think we're getting an iPad in about a month.
Yeah, some sort of potential March event for some new iPads.
Yeah, and the key highlights. I'll give you the rundown, Noah, because I know you and
Okay.
I both have 2018 11-inch iPad Pros,
Mhm.
and so I don't know. I think we're also similar in terms of, like, we used to be more into iPads than we currently are. I don't use mine very often, and I know you're in a similar boat.
Mhm.
So for me, at least, I think that it would take a lot to get me to update, because honestly, it would be easier for me to just no longer have an iPad than to upgrade. And I know it's crazy because I'm the Apple guy, but I don't use them that much. The
No,
current
I
set of
agree.
rumors is, I'll give you the quick rundown and then I can give you more details, but I'm
Okay.
curious to hear your thoughts.
Okay.
All right. First of all, M3 chip, of course. That's a given. Second of all,
Mhm.
OLED display. That's a nice feature, nice upgrade, especially for the 11-inch, which didn't get mini LED. So now we're apparently leapfrogging straight to OLED. There's also rumors of a new Magic keyboard with a larger trackpad, a little bit more MacBook like, and aluminum construction instead of the like the AirPods case material rubberized thing that we currently have.
Mhm.
There's also rumors that they'll move the camera to be landscape optimized, a new Apple Pencil with magnetic tips for different types of writing implements, and also, crucially or interestingly, MagSafe and some
Hmm.
sort of a new design. So those are the top line figures. What does that make you think?
Personally, I still don't think that would get me. I think
Hmm.
those sound like good improvements, don't get me wrong, and it sounds like these iPads are going to be this is going to really be like the next generation. Like they're really since 2018, there hasn't been much, right? There is like, oh, a second camera and LiDAR and, a better chip every time, whatever. But this definitely seems like, some sort of a redesign, making it be, horizontal first instead of vertical first. and
Mhm.
all this other stuff. It sounds like it really is going to be the next generation, and that's very exciting. The price is a concern. I don't know if those rumors changed, but it was supposed to be extremely expensive, which is definitely a
Yeah.
concern. And then even if it wasn't, even putting the price aside for a second, I still just don't know if this is exciting enough for me personally. They're great improvements, don't get me wrong, but for me personally, I still don't think that this would be enough.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's a weird one. The price thing that you touched on there, I think lately some cold water has been thrown on that report. It was said by multiple sources that the 11-inch would be $1,500.
Yeah.
Now, dude, if it's $1,500, I'm just gonna say it. It should be a fully fledged Mac. It needs Mac OS. Just
Yeah, I mean,
there's no way that I would pay $1,500 for iPad OS.
I know, and like at the very least, it should come with like the keyboard case and the pencil and stuff for $1,500.
Oh, wait a minute. Maybe it does. Maybe that's maybe they got something wrong on whatever the information that was based on. Maybe was including those accessories. Like maybe they sell it as a I don't know. Maybe it comes together, or maybe there's like a bundle. Dude, this whole thing is just so weird, and I think that Apple is feeling the heat of like, well, we need to figure out what to do with this platform because right now it's I just don't really see the iPad gaining a fan base. I made a video a while ago. I made a video back last year saying, "Is the iPad dying?" And I think it's a very apt question. I mean, you and I used to be pretty frequent iPad users. I think we've decreased iPad usage. I don't think there's a ton of people that are like, oh, well, I haven't bought an iPad yet, but I want to get one. I think iPads at this point are pretty much out there, and in some ways, they're all so good that nobody needs to upgrade. But in other ways, there's nothing tempting about the upgrade to entice people. So it's this double edged sort of like iPads are really good for what they are, but there's not really anything better about a new one versus getting one that's a couple years old on Amazon renewed. So this is Apple's chance to revitalize it, get some excitement back, spread the audience. But I just don't know if I see these features that we talked about doing that. The thing that I'm interested about is MagSafe. Lewis here is asking how, what, why, how would that work? Now, the way that I see it is MagSafe on an iPad wouldn't be exactly the same as MagSafe on an iPhone. Because MagSafe on the iPhone, I know a lot of people just use it for charging, but it's also for accessories. And that's where I think it could be useful. You know, the Google Pixel tablet, how they have that sort
Mhm.
of like it's a docked thing that can live in your kitchen and be a Google Home Hub, or it can be a tablet. I could definitely see Apple going in a different direction with the iPad, saying, like, okay, look, maybe we can't make it as useful as Mac OS, but maybe we can make it do a couple of other things and that could be nice. Like maybe you could put it on a little stand, like a magnetic thing, bomb. Put it on there. Use it as a external display. Maybe you can, put it in your kitchen or something on like a HomePod mount, and then it's like a visual screen for FaceTime or something. I don't know. I don't know that that would work for me in terms of being like, oh man, I'm excited about the iPad again. But like, if you're trying to add features to a product that is not seeing a lot of new features, that might be a way to do it.
I think that's interesting because there was a rumor recently about some version of what was it, like tvOS, or it was one of their operating systems. It was a version of that was like meant to run on like a smart display or something. Do you know the rumor that I'm talking about?
I don't think so.
I read it, maybe it was on Twitter or something, but there was some rumor about like some version of tvOS or iOS or whatever it was that was like being tested for like a smart display or a home accessory or something like that. And I definitely agree with you that like the iPad could serve that role in addition to the things that it does already, especially talking about like an OLED display, you know, could have always on functionality. And then, oh, you go dock it in, you know, in a dock or whatever, and, you know, let the always on do something, whatever, like could be an interesting feature to add to the iPad.
That's true. And God, I don't know. See, the problem that I keep coming back to in my mind is whenever we talk about the iPad, I worry that Vision Pro is more iPad than iPhone in the sense that I feel like a similar limitation of iPad OS could be said about Vision OS. That without a serious evaluation of like, how do we make this actually productive? I fear that Vision Pro could end up on a similar path where in a couple of years it ends up being a little bit stagnant, shall we say.
Yeah, and I definitely, because the interesting thing is I feel like the Vision Pro is definitely more of an iPad killer than an iPhone killer. If it's going to kill anything, I'm not saying it is,
Mm-hmm.
but it's more of, maybe I should say, an iPad replacement, or an iPad. You know, it fills the niche that an iPad fills more than an iPhone. Because I feel like the iPad, at least for me, it's like the thing that I have lying around, and it's like if I want to do, you know, something on iOS, like something with a sort of a touch screen or whatever, but I want a bigger screen, then I'll grab the iPad. And it's like kind of in a
Mm-hmm.
weird middle place, whatever. I feel like the Vision Pro is kind of like that too. It's not exactly a touch screen, but like, I mean, it can be if
It's
you,
pretty
you know, bring it up
close.
close to you. Yeah, if you bring it up to
Yeah.
you, you can use it like an iPad. So, and it kind of does a lot of the same things, like, you know, watching a movie or playing a game or whatever. And obviously there are things that one can do that the other one can't do, but a lot of overlap between them, much more than an iPhone, which you just have in your pocket and you carry it around with you all day. We're not anywhere near the point where you'd be carrying a Vision Pro around with you all day, unless you're a YouTuber and you're filming a video.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good point. It's gosh, it does worry me that we're starting to get a little gimmicky almost. Like with the MagSafe thing. I'm not gonna I'll withhold judgment because it seems like it could be maybe useful for some people. Um and Noah sent me this article here that could potentially be related. Uh a HomePod with a screen found in tvOS 17.4 beta. And that to me, okay, I'll say this. The whole like dock for the iPad powered by MagSafe sounds interesting. But like look at this concept here, which by the way is an iPad mini superimposed on top of a HomePod. So like not a very detailed concept, but fine.
Yeah.
And it's running tvOS. Now, personally, this looks dumb. I have never like I applauded Google for doing something a little different when they made the Pixel tablet. And a couple of other Android tablets and have made something like this. There's the Alexa Home Hub. I think there was a Meta thing like that too, with like a screen
Oh, the
on a
portal.
speaker. Yeah, the portal. So like there's been devices like that before. Honestly, none of them seem remotely interesting to me. I don't know what I would ever use them for. And I frankly don't know that people really find them that useful. Like, is anyone buying them?
I don't know. And I agree with you. Like, I think like when Google announced it for the Pixel tablet, they announced it at I/O, I think, which I was, and yeah, because I was there, not to brag or anything, but
Whoa.
But yes, when they announced that, I thought like, wow, that's really cool. Like, first of all, it's something different that like other people or other companies aren't really doing, and and it was just like a cool idea that like you can take the tablet and you can dock it and it would charge the tablet and it would do the the audio through the speaker, whatever. First of all, like looking at this concept, I feel like they can't release a HomePod with a screen. It has to be a HomePod dock for an iPad. That would be crazy to have
Yeah.
basically an iPad and then iPad speaker version that has to be wired into the wall. Like that would be, and the idea of it running tvOS like as is, I don't think that's right. I think it would be, some sort of iOS, or it could even be like the standby feature that iOS has. It could be like a version of that, like a super dumbed down version that runs, but like whatever. Like I could totally see this being an accessory and I think it would be very cool. But also, I don't think I would want it. Like I can't imagine somewhere in my house where I'd be like, I want to put a speaker there so I can put my iPad down and like play music out of the speaker. Like I mean, I have roommates, so it's a little bit different, but like I just use my AirPods or my, over ear headphones or whatever.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. Yeah, it's cool, but I agree. I don't see myself using it. I do very much wonder if the iPad is doomed. I don't think Apple's going to kill it, but like if we're talking about making built-in HomePod speaker things and like other kind of gimmicky stuff like this, it's not going to get us to upgrade. It's going to get maybe a couple of people. I'm sure that OLED screens and a newer style of Apple Pencil, that will probably get a lot of people that use the iPad as like illustrators or graphic designers. Those people, sure, I could definitely see that being useful. But for us, for maybe, I don't know, 60% of the iPad user base, that doesn't seem that useful. I think someone in the chat here said earlier, everybody's mom already has an iPad and whatever generation they have is good enough. Like literally the only people that I know upgrading iPads are people going from the Touch ID generation to the Face ID generation. I don't even want to say new design because it's 6 years old nearly, but the current iPad design language. Like, if people have the older iPad 9th generation and they want to get an iPad Air, sure, fair enough. But I don't know anyone except for Sam Cole, who is going from like an A12X to an M1 and then M1 to M2. He's the only one I think that did that.
Yeah, but I mean, if we wanted to talk about how crazy he is, that would be a whole episode in and of itself.
Yeah. Yeah. Bro is a goofy guy.
He sure is.
He bought he had the M1 iPad Pro 12.9 and he bought the exact same thing again with the M2 chip. He's like, "Oh, you got to have the best one." Dude, I could switch that out and I guarantee I wonder if I could even do this. If I knew his iCloud password, I would 100% switch my and his iPad Pros and see if he ever noticed, because I highly doubt that you could notice.
No, there's no way. He has the Ultra 2 also, right?
Yes, you're right. He did get the Apple Watch Ultra 2. And the only new feature, actually, it's -1 feature now because it doesn't have blood oxygen, which we have.
Yeah.
But it's also the only new feature is the double tap, right? Boop, boop.
Mm-hmm.
Which you can't use if you're in Vision Pro because you'll start clicking things.
Yeah. So anyways, we don't need to take a detour about how goofy of a guy Sam is, but he is very goofy. But I agree with you that he's one of the very few people that is actually upgrading their iPads regularly. My mom is in the chat and she said that she doesn't have an iPad, and the reason why is because I always pass my old Apple products down. So she has my iPhone 14 Pro that I had right before I got the 15 Pro Max. but no iPad because I haven't upgraded my iPad since, November of 2018 when that iPad Pro launched. So there
So
you
her
go.
source doesn't have anything. There's no
Yeah.
inventory.
There's nothing to pass down because I just haven't upgraded mine.
How often would you say you use your iPad?
Less than one, I'd say like a couple times a week maximum.
Oh, you use it more than me then.
I feel like, okay, it sits on my desk in my room, and I feel like the main thing that I use it for these days is just playing the like Pokemon card game, which also works on my phone, but I'm like, oh, I have a bigger screen, whatever. So
That's
sometimes when
fair.
I'm sitting in my bed, I'll grab the iPad and like play a game or two. So maybe like once or twice, and sometimes I use it for guitar chords as well. If I'm like trying to learn new songs or whatever, I'll use it for that. But not so much lately. So I feel like I use it like a couple times a week maximum, but probably more like once or twice a week, for a little while. And that's about it these days.
Yeah, that's true. I think that I mean you and I are definitely like a little bit outside of the target demographic for the iPad. But to be fair, that target demographic has moved because when the iPad came out, I actually think that the iPad is a rare example of Apple niching down.
Hmm.
When the iPad came out, it was positioned as a hybrid device. It did something that your phone could do and something that your laptop could do, but better than both. It was the convenience of iOS with a large touch screen and the functionality of macOS without as much bulk, right? So and Steve Jobs did a phenomenal job of laying that out. He said basically, look, this was 2010, right? So a couple of years ago, people wanted netbooks, but they didn't even realize it at the time. What they really wanted was an iPad. But things have changed since then. A couple things. Number one, Apple Silicon. A lot of the benefits of the iPad were that it was a fanless, ARM based, very cool, very fluid system. That is now also true of the Mac. You can get a MacBook Air with the same chip, with the same performance, with very good battery life, no fans, very little bulk. So the benefit of the iPad over that device is diminished. The other problem is just in the way that the iPad has been marketed, because when it was that third device, that Goldilocks device for taking on the train and reading the news, for bringing to the coffee shop when you want to get a little bit of work done, but not a full laptop amount of work done. That was an every person's device. It was also a $500 device. But now the problem is people that want iPads mostly have iPads. And the tasks that you do with them aren't necessarily getting revolutionized all the time or are targeted towards that general broad audience of like, hey, you want a third device? It's not your phone, it's not your laptop, it's your iPad. I think less people need that third device now.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think like, the iPad came out at a time where these other devices were a lot there were more trade-offs. Like the iPad came out and existed for a long time in when all the Macs had Intel chips. And you either had like a MacBook Pro that was, a bulkier, heavier thing, or if you went for like the Air and you wanted to be light, it wasn't super powerful and it was, still a bit bulkier, whatever. And then the phones were, I guess by that point the phones were decent, but like the screens were smaller for in the beginning until the 6 and the 6 Plus came along and whatever. And I feel like now, especially like the Macs of Apple Silicon, the MacBook Air is so thin and light, and the iPhones, we have the big screens and they're very powerful, whatever. It is
And
definitely
they're
uh
optimized.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's less of a need for it. I think for me
Mhm.
personally, like I bought that iPad Pro, the 2018 iPad Pro. I was in college at the time, and I really liked it because I liked using it to take notes in class with the pencil. Um, taking notes, or I could like download if there was like a slide deck for that class, or like a handout that I could just write directly on top of it. I liked that a lot. And also that the iPad was, a lot smaller and lighter. I had the 11-inch iPad Pro, and I had, the 15-inch MacBook Pro. So it was a lot smaller and lighter for me to carry to class and carry around
Mm,
with me, whatever. So I liked it a lot for that. These days, I don't, I'm not taking classes, I'm not taking notes, whatever. I don't have as much of a need. So it was very nice for that purpose. And even still, I think it would be. I think I agree with you about the niche. Artists and students, I think are like two big niches that they're really going for. And I think it's great for those people. But like, that Goldilocks device or that third device or whatever, I definitely agree that use case or that need has shrunk, over
yeah.
the iPad's lifespan.
And I will also say, I think some people misunderstand. They say that I'm not the same as the people that really use their iPad Pros, and that is true. I think that is an example of the iPad niching down, but it is also true that I'm not, I don't even have an Apple Pencil. I am a terrible artist. I could not possibly use the iPad Pro. I don't do graphic design. I don't do art or design in that sense. So it's just something that other people are going to find useful that I just can't comprehend. But I would submit to you, per your argument, the iPad Pro is great for college students. It's great for slides and notes and annotations. But is there anything that you can't do on that 2018 iPad Pro that you can do on literally any newer iPad Pro? If it's that type of thing, probably not. Maybe, just maybe, there are some people who would say the A12X is getting a little slow. I want a bit more performance and memory. And so I'll get an M1 or an M2. Fine. But that's still, it's like, if you have an M1 device, that's now been 3 years. The M1 is not feeling slow whatsoever. It took 6 years for us to get to a point where I could even conceive of the A12X being a limitation. And even then, that's only if you're a very serious power user. So like Apple, even though the iPad is great and there are diehard fans that absolutely use it and do a lot more with it than me, my argument is still that the year over year upgrades to the iPad don't seem to be tempting a lot of those people into upgrading. I have seen plenty of folks in coffee shops drawing on their iPads, and it's an iPad Air with an A14 chip in it that they bought 2.5 years ago or 3 years ago. I don't know. That was a while ago now. And they would not even comprehend an upgrade unless it was absolutely bananas.
Yeah, I agree. And I think like, the list of features that you mentioned before, if the price were the same as it is today, I think it would be compelling. And I think it would get some people, like you said, maybe the artists or some professionals that like, the OLED display is more accurate and maybe that's, helpful to them or whatever. Or like, I don't know, if you watch a lot of movies on your iPad, maybe you'd appreciate that. I would always like, if I'm on a plane, I always just take my Mac out because I'd rather have a 16-inch screen than an 11-inch screen to watch a movie. But whatever, if you're into
I'd
that.
rather
But
have a 120-inch screen.
oh, geez. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We know.
Dude, I'm
I
getting
would
on a plane
too.
on Tuesday. I have a 5-hour flight on Tuesday. I am so stoked. This will be my first Vision Pro plane experience. I'm very excited.
Yeah, I'm very interested to hear how it goes for you. But I think just
And I'm
to
middle seat economy plane ticket. So I'm gonna be in the worst seat with the best experience.
wait, why are you in a middle seat?
because I had to move my flight, and they only had middles.
Oh no.
Yep,
That's pretty rough. But okay,
I
maybe Vision
know.
Pro will help you.
It'll save my experience.
But yes, before we hit save on this episode and export it and upload it
Good
everywhere,
one.
the last thing to close out the iPad discussion, I will say, I think if those features that you said came, for the same current price, I think it would be a compelling new upgrade. But I don't think it would get me personally. I think if
Mm-hmm.
those price rumors are true, or even partially true, and the price goes up, I think that is kind of a problem. It's just too expensive that it's like not worth it unless Apple does some kind of crazy thing where they're like, if there's rumors about this new Magic Keyboard, like what if it's like a Surface style thing and you dock it in this new keyboard and it turns into Mac OS or it turns into iPad OS Pro and whatever. You know what I mean? Like unless they're doing something that big and that crazy, then I would look at it and I would think about it and see what it does. But unless it's something at that scale, I just don't see how they're going to get me aside from, they don't support it with software updates anymore. And I'll just buy, a refurbished one from a year or two ago and keep that for a while.
Yeah, and that's the problem. And oh man, we're going over episode, but I forgot to mention the fact that apparently one of the rumors is a 12.9-inch iPad Air. So like think
Oh yeah.
larger size iPad Pro, but with all the same trade-offs, like a Touch ID, slightly smaller screen, no ProMotion. And again, I hear that, I'm like, okay, cool. It'll probably be $799, which is not bad for a 13-inch device, and which will probably be bought by a bunch of people. I'm sure that's going to sell really well. But still, as a savvy buyer, just buy a refurbished iPad Pro. You can get a 2018 for like $600 from Apple for 12.9.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be the better value. Also, we never talked about the iPhone camera triangle.
Oh my God, you're right. Oh yeah. Very quickly, what I will say about the iPhone camera triangle is that's not what it's going to look like. It's just not. That's a safe area. They send those to case manufacturers where it's basically like, hey, we're not going to tell you what the design is, but don't put stuff here. That's all it means. It's not actually what the design is going to be.
Yeah, I think I would not expect it to look. I think it looks.
That'd be
I mean,
ridiculous.
it looks goofy. Could be kind of cool, but I don't think it's going to be that. And I think your explanation makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So don't worry about that, folks. It's not going to happen. All right.
Whew.
You know what is going to happen, though?
What?
Me transitioning to end this week's episode of Dark Mode, the podcast that brings you sage advice from two technology experts.
And that's not just what we call it. So people.
Exactly. You already know. I've been your host, of course, as always, Luke Miani.
And I've been your host, Noah Rubin. We will see you next week and have a great night.
Take care.